Greetings and salutations. You are listening to the Into North podcast, where we take a look at the competitive side of the Commander format, also known as CDH. I am one of your hosts, Lyndon, aka Noobsource, and today I'm joined by my co-host, Reed, aka Sick Robot.
Hey, how you doing?
And Morgan, aka Spleenface.
What's up, everyone?
In this episode, we'll be covering event recaps and getting a mini deck tech from a tournament champion. Ooh.
Yes, one-time tournament champion.
a washed CDH veteran.
Hey, no, I'm continuing the bit, man. Of like, I got my win for this year. No longer washed. I'm saving up washed allegations for one more year.
Dude, do you get to bank them? Like, if you get another win, then
no. You gotta, they don't
it's
roll
every
over.
once
You
a
gotta,
year. Okay.
Yep. But I only do get one once a year anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Cool. So before we get into that, what have you guys been up to since the last episode? And I guess, honestly, you know what? Let's just skip this because that is kind of the episode.
Yeah. And also, how long has it been since the last episode? I don't want to think about it.
Yeah. Okay, well then...
It hasn't been that long. The last one came out, like, just before Chicago. So, like, 3 weeks since the last one.
Oh, we've actually been... We've like,
it'll be
sort
4,
of been...
I think, by the time this one.
We've, like, sort of been meeting obligations. I mean, we don't really... we have obligations to our patrons, but...
Let's not stretch it too far.
Hey, we got 2 in February. This is going to be our first in March. We just have to record one, like, next weekend. I'm giving away when we're recording this, but... we get a couple... Like, we get, like, back-to-back. We should be fine. We should be back on track.
Cool. Well... Without further ado, let's jump into housekeeping. And in housekeeping, as always, we like to give a shout out to our new patrons. This week we have 2 new patrons, so big shout outs to Suradeep G and Carrie J. You rock.
Just saying them both. We're
yeah.
Lyndon just wants to get through. He wants to get to the main topic. Can't hold himself back.
There is some. I don't know anything about what happened in at these events. So spoil for our listeners. Morgan and Reed both went to Chicago and Boston, and I don't have a passport right now. Hopefully, knock wood. Within a week or so, it should be. Should be coming in, but I've yet to hear these stories from these events, so I'm kind of looking forward to hearing it just as much as our listeners.
It's also like the worst possible because they were like back-to-back weekends, so just the worst possible time to not have a passport. you still have a flight voucher too, right?
No, that shit expired, sadly.
You expired, my guy.
Dude, it expired in December, and I was like, it was because of my work PTO. Like I was still accruing it. I was like,
just couldn't quite build up enough.
Mm-hmm.
That sucks though.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well.
We'll drag you out to something this year.
Oh, for sure. No, I'm down. I'm absolutely down. Yeah. Okay. So on to new developments, and in new developments, wait, why is Magiccon Chicago under new developments?
There you go. Done.
Okay.
Fixed. We're good organized.
Fixed. We know what we're doing.
We have a very professional process.
Yeah.
And frankly, I don't appreciate the implications of.
Okay, Reed, do you want to?
You're trying to say?
Do you want to do the point you're just typed out?
Great bit on the fly. Did anybody say that was right off the top of the brain? So I guess first in new developments, there is going to be. I am doubtful that we'll get this out in time, but I will put it out there anyway. There's going to be a tournament, CDH tournament in Toronto. Wow. Crazy, right?
Unbelievable.
We haven't it's like actually unheard of, and it's ridiculous because Toronto is so large and has such a large theoretical player base, and yet anyway. But one's being run, and it's being run at the Harry Tarantula, Harry T in on the 16th question mark. I didn't look this up in time. Tarantula CD. I'm just gonna call it the 16th, and then I'll change it if it's not. I'll just put that in the description for the episode.
It's the 16th.
It's 16th. Great,
nice,
cool.
Nice.
So Harry Tarantula on the 16th. So come out and come play. I have no idea what the actual rest of the details are aside from it's unfortunately no proxy, but that's fine. We are getting an event. We're getting it rolling here, and I'm sure like nobody is really going to be showing up with a fully optimized deck except for Morgan. So have fun. we actually we have some
Scene will be there.
some decent decks showing up. So yeah, I think it'll be a good time. I'm not sure that I'll be able to go, but absolutely make it out. If this comes out ahead of the tournament and you're also in the area to come out. So yeah, it'll be a good time.
Cool. And another tournament announcement. Morgan, you want to get this one?
Sure. So the weekend after that, there's a tournament in Kingston at the Kingston Gaming Nexus. So if you're in the area, definitely check that one out. I unfortunately will be very far away and will be unable to attend that one, but sounds like some subset of
good chance that one of us will at least one of us will probably make it out.
Still TBD, but definitely.
But even if we don't,
interest. I need to go.
Definitely, please.
I need to redeem myself after last time. Just
true. Just kidding.
Too many top fours without crossing the finish line. Need to.
When's the last time you won an event? Not like as an actual question. Because you do perform at all the ones that you go to.
I think it is just basically a numbers thing. Like event, based off my performance, I should just eventually convert. But we'll see.
Cool. And let it be known to everybody in the audience that winning CDH tournaments is in fact just a numbers game. You could be the best player. I mean, Ian's just cracked. I don't know what to tell you about that one, and he also probably just has insane luck on some of those runs. But turns out, even if you're a really great player, it's just gonna be the day. It's just either you get lucky or you don't. You put up the best results you can. You try to get yourself into the top cut, and then it's just sort of like. You play the best that you can, and then just hope that the chips fall your way.
Exactly. Okay, so on to the main topic, which is kind of recap. So let's start with Magiccon Chicago. So what all happened at Magiccon Chicago? What was the tournament like? How many players? What decks did you guys take? Give me the deets.
So, well, there wasn't a tournament. Well, I guess there was, which grats to Alana actually. There was a commander last. There wasn't like an official CDH tournament, but there were a couple of actually relatively well prized commander events running during the Magiccon.
Okay.
One of which Alana, Happy Fox on Twitter, something like that. I don't know. Alana, longtime tournament grinder, constantly. Operating under the curse of being able to make top 16s and not actually take down the large event, just constantly. But managed to take down actually a pretty big one here, where I think she won. It was single elimination commander last one standing, and I think she won 2 or 3 full sets.
Oh.
Yeah,
wow.
Solid not like boxes or whatever, just actual just full sets of. I think a couple of I forget which ones they were, but a very decent, very decent pricing coming to that one.
I think there's a photo of her holding 3 of them, which
is just crazy.
Wow,
it's just sick. So there's that, but that wasn't really why we were there. I mean, obviously going to a Magiccon in Chicago, it's because it's relatively nearby, and everybody was going to be there. It was actually it was completely sold out, which is crazy for a Magiccon.
Wow.
I think one could argue it was in fact
oversold. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that one.
There's a picture from Saturday of just 100 people sitting in the convention center lobby on the floor playing Magic
because there weren't table space. There was not table space for everybody. Yeah, it was crazy.
That's insane.
We had to so this is actually, I guess we can talk about this because me and Morgan to have play space on Saturday. Basically, we're in the convention center, and it turned out that Lua Stardust from Scry Babies and Ian, comedian, were basically there was a content creator section, and then they would give table space to content creators to do whatever they wanted to do. So I think some people ran mini events or cubes or that kind of thing. Lou and Ian were actually taking up basically 2 full rows of tables doing a learn CDH intro to CDH event, which was awesome, where they were they had a bunch of pods set up where they had like two content, like pretty well-known content creators as well. Like there were some Playing with Power guys there. There were I know Alan was there, Play to Win, Spike Feeders, Alan, like just a bunch of people there. And they'd have like two content creators per pod, and then two people that like would rotate every game to sit down. And they were actually like lending out full decks to people to just like sit down and play. And there was like a good selection too, like just basically like every tournament staple.
Yeah, they just like proxied out, I don't know, a dozen or so.
Yeah, like 15 decks or something like that.
Like, here, these are all proxies, so like we can just hand them to people and not have to worry, and then they can learn to play with some experienced players who are there to help.
What an awesome idea!
It was
so
a great
cool.
idea.
And, like, the tables were like full for hours
Yeah.
and hours. Like there were tons of people who wanted to show up. I mean, some of them like had, some of them had their own decks of like varying power levels. But a bunch of them were just boring them. Like, sure, let's try it out. It was pretty great.
It was great. And then, so me and Morgan basically got in early, got some table space, and basically used that to play games for most of the day, because otherwise we were not going to have table space. So it was good though. We had some good games in. Did some deck swapping. I'm actually so happy about this because I got to, Lyndon, you've played against Magic, right?
Yeah.
Like a decent amount.
Yeah.
You know those Jessica's wills where like they just like they have, they're like close to having like a reiterate combo with the Jessica's will, but like they can't quite go for it, so they're just like, all right, I'm just gonna like rip a Jessica's will and see what happens. And Morgan does that sometimes and just rips the entire thing off the top, right? I got to do that to Morgan, except even better, because I was playing Magic, ripped the Jessica's will after I think I tutored for I did have Fire Mines Insight, I think.
No, so you had Jessica's will, and I forget how you got it, but you had Jessica's will and
I think
Reiterate,
it was a Fire Mines Insight. I think
it might have been Invent. It might have been Invent, like because I
sure, yes, something like that. Anyway, so I knew I've Jessica's will Reiterate, but I know that there's a counter spell ready to get pointed at it whenever I like try to reiterate. So I just fire off the Jessica's will, and I'm just like, well, I'm just like not gonna reiterate it, and then like if somebody points a counterspell at it, I can reiterate on top. And, like cool. if they don't counterspell it, then great, we're just gonna see what we hit. So I Jessica's will, and off the top, I think in order, I forget. I forget what the order is, but off the top, I flip Stormkill Artist, Dispel, and what else was it?
Like some spell to let you keep going. Like
Frantic Search. It was Frantic Search. I ripped Stormkill Artist, Dispel, Frantic Search with the Reiterate in hand. Off the top into note interaction, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. Cast the Stormkill Artist, cast Frantic Search, hold priority, Reiterate, hold up blue mana for the Dispel to like keep you off of killing me, and then just like loot through my deck until I find a breach and kill you.
Magic is such a fun deck. I love it.
It's so much fun, and it felt so good to do that back to Morgan after having that done to me so many times.
It's so cathartic to do a deck like swap and then just beat the other player with their own deck.
Just pull the exactly. Yeah.
I feel like Jessica's will, like just blind Jessica's wills suck, except in exactly Magic, where just like an ungodly amount of the time they're incredible.
They just hit all gas.
Yeah.
Like I've cast a lot of just like let's see what I hit off this Jessica's will, and usually I'm like happy if it's like cool, I got like a land and like a spell I can cast, like a mana rock that I can like dump the red into, or like something that like I hit like I don't know, like a creature that costs like 2 generic 1, like some hate bear, like I hit opposition agent, like well I get some refund off the Jessica's will, and like I guess that's good enough. And then in Vadric, it's just like, oh, cool. I hit like a combo piece and a counter spell. Yeah. Like, oh, I have like 1 million mana, and I hit this like giant X spell that I'm going to cast and draw 8 cards.
Yeah, sure.
And a counter spell.
Deal.
Cool.
But yeah, so that was basically almost all of Saturday. I mean, so we got there relatively late on Friday. And just like made our own plans to go do other stuff, because there was an after party that was sold out, and also I don't actually really like the like officially sanctioned Magiccon like Friday night parties. They're just like fine. I know Morgan doesn't particularly like them either.
Yeah. I feel like they you just can't you can't make a really good party with that many people in like a corporate
exactly
environment. Like it's just
doesn't
like
function.
they all have to be quite tame. And
Morgan party animal last name is
hell yeah.
no, but just like they're all very generic.
Yeah, and it's
no, I get it. It's like
you're
going to your an office like a work party.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly. So we spent like a majority of Saturday just sort of jamming games with people to come up, which is just great. I don't know. I'm like a big fan. I know some people don't like playing with like newer players all that much. I'm totally happy doing so, and it's a great time a lot of the time because you get to teach them stuff. You get to like play like casual games. You can play like learning games as well. I love like, you know, getting into weird situations and then like just like rolling back a bit and like walking through step by step because it's interesting, right?
I will say, certainly, like I've had some bad experiences playing with new players. Handing them a fully built tournament level deck,
helps a lot.
Smooths a lot of that out.
Like a huge amount of that out. Yeah, absolutely.
What decks were you giving out?
Like they had,
there's like
Kinnan,
Nagila,
Timnacron,
okay,
Rox,
ones that are pretty.
yeah.
You know, you don't need like a ton of knowledge of CDH to make those things work.
They're like all like. Just,
I mean, some of them are probably not.
Probably
like I don't know that
much,
Rock size a great beginner deck.
Yeah. But like
they had like
plans. Yeah.
They had like a dozen. So
yeah, good choice.
Yeah, there's also like Elevere, which seems like a very easy one to like get your head around in terms of like I'm gonna play stacks pieces and play my commander and hit people really hard.
Is there a particular
cards.
deck that you found the new players drawn to, or was it just kind of like a good mix?
A lot of them played Kinnan, which makes a lot of sense to me because it's it's like 2-color. It's like it's pretty easy to get what Kinnan's doing, right? Like even if you don't know that there are combos with Kinnan, it's pretty easy to like look at the commander and understand what it's doing. It's like, oh, okay, like I'm gonna like play a bunch of mana and then like play some big stuff.
Also, yeah, the overlap between the kind of like low power version of Kinnan and high power Kinnan is actually surprising.
Yeah, it's pretty large, right? Like you just like put in a bunch of the fast mana and some staples and stuff, and it's all like there aren't that many like truly weird cards in Kinnan. It feels like.
Yeah, I feel like the one trick is like how do Mirage Mirror, but like that's exactly the sort of thing that having people who are
you have like 2 people in the pod who understand exactly how it functions already.
Let me explain how this combo works.
So yeah, it was a good first day there, and then I guess we sort of just like did that for the entire day, huh? What else?
Mostly, yeah. And then we went and got Hot Pot. That was
one got Hot Pot. Hot Pot was great.
Nice.
I'm so happy with myself because I basically I haven't done Hot Pot in like probably over a year. I'm not even sure that I've done Korean barbecue in the last year or so, which is actually a
we should just do
travesty.
that, man.
We should. I was about to say we should all just go do that at some point.
Yeah.
But so I didn't do like Hot Pot in over a year, and we get there with like 8 people, which is like a decent sized Hot Pot. That's like seating capacity around 1 pot. And I end up doing all the ordering, and I basically estimate at the start the exact correct amount of food for everybody at the table to eat the exact like amount of food they wanted to eat.
Well, in fairness,
with a bit of additional order, right? Like
well, also the fact that one of the people turns out
wasn't eating, but also like it just turns out that I'm just a god at just like ripping like estimated orders because it basically like we were like 2 additional dishes between 8 people and that was enough, and I was just like nice.
Solid.
So I'm holding that one. That was my W.
And then we went back to the venue and played. Actually, I'm so down to do that again. We played the Descent into Avernus cube,
which is a sick cube.
What is that?
So it's
so it's a 4-player cube.
Yeah, multiplayer cube. Everybody starts with Emblem of Descent into Avernus, which is at the beginning of your upkeep. You put 2.
No,
at the beginning of your upkeep, you put 2 counters on it, and then everybody takes that much damage and makes that many treasures.
Whoa.
Yeah. And then basically you just draft 20 card decks with no lands in them, and then because everybody has a descent into Avernus, so at the the first round, everybody in every upkeep makes 2 treasures and takes 2 damage, and then you keep going. The cube is entirely Grixis.
And you start with 100 life.
And you start with 100 life, and then you have to draft your commander. And
that sounds
a fun
wild.
Time.
Wow.
Because it's all stack interaction. You're 20 card decks and with a lot of mana. So like mill is a very real thing. There's a bunch of cards like there's a Mayhem Devil in there, obviously, and the only way that you can make mana is the treasures that you're making. So it's like, okay, like I guess this happens. There's like a jury in there. There's like a couple of other like really like fun ones.
Yeah, there's like Sardian Avenger, like whenever someone sacrifices an artifact, it deals 1 damage to them. It's just like a ton of like Punisher effects,
but also like stack interaction and like mill and like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, interaction, and a copy of Brain Freeze,
which it turns out is like a bit too good.
When everyone has a billion mana and also 20 card decks, Brain Freeze pretty good.
So is there a list for that online, or?
I think you should, if you just look up
I'm sure we could find
Descent into Avernus Cube.
Yeah, that'd be a sweet NPC order.
Yeah, there you go. The Descent into Avernus Cube right there. 130 card commander cube.
Easy clap, man. Did you guys get any, so you did Hot Pot, did you get any Chicago Deep Dish?
We did, actually. We did that on Sunday. And it is, so we did.
I let Reed and Rose talked me into making a mistake.
We made the mistake, which is that we got like the fully loaded one, which made it way too soupy because we also I know you're supposed to get them well done. You're supposed to get Chicago Deep Dish well done. And we got the fully loaded one and forgot to order it well done, and it was basically soup in a crust.
Because, like, it would have been, like, it's already a pretty...
It came with, like, full tomato slices.
There's a lot of moisture.
And spinach. With
and
the one
mushrooms.
That we did, and mushrooms.
No, it was mushrooms and tomatoes. Just so much water.
Soupy. And then, like, weirdly enough, the crust was just sort of not a thing. Like I usually
it was not.
I usually love crust.
I feel like I've had better deep dish.
Usually
I feel like the deep dish we had in Philadelphia was better. Honestly,
maybe. I'm usually a huge fan of like of pizza crust and like just crust of stuff in general. This one was just sort of like just like salted cooked dough, but like sort of like not risen, right? Like not airy.
I feel like
sort of like
we're glossing over the fact that that's like it feels like a really controversial take. Just being a fan, I'm a fan of crust.
Really? If you're not a fan of crust, you're a picky eater.
No, I'm fine with crust, but I'm not. I'd never be like I'm a fan. Like
crust is great. Crust gives you it's a palate cleanser. It's the best part of the pizza to dip too, because it's really good bread.
Okay, it's not the best. Okay, I wouldn't say it's the best. It's the part that you have to dip, otherwise it's
because it's good bread. I'll straight up eat pizza crust as like if you just gave me a plateful of pizza crust, absolutely. I'm just a huge fan of bread. Man. I'm just a huge fan of bread. I don't know what to tell you.
Sandwich crust too. Like
bread is pretty good.
The other day I ate butter and toast for lunch.
Wait, Lyndon, do you cut the crusts off your sandwiches?
No, but like Reed is just saying that he's like I'll eat just a plate of pizza crust. Like, are you gonna eat like a plate of sandwich crust too? Like
butter toast is an all-time great meal.
I don't know. It's a good snack.
It's so good. It's not quite a meal, but I do eat it for breakfast relatively, like relatively frequently. So it's a meal in my mind. Breakfast is a meal. Can't change my mind. Bowl of cereal.
I'm keeping this like
off track here.
Reed declared that he'll eat a plate full of pizza crust in my back pocket, and that's going to come out.
If it's like a slob, if it's like people have slobbed onto the pizza crust and then try to give it to me, like if you like cut off the crust from a bunch of like obviously if there's pizza, I'm gonna eat the pizza, but like.
Here come all the qualifications.
If there's like a picky eater who just like cut off all the crust, ate the stuff, and then just like, hey, you want the crust? I'd be like, absolutely, yeah. Hand it over.
We're going to a pizza restaurant. We're just ordering crust. just for you. I'll enjoy pizza.
Dude,
like
that's
a
what garlic
regular
knots
person.
are. I fucking love garlic knots. Garlic knots rock. Garlic knots are like insane, and that's just pizza crust.
Reed on his way to unironically order a nun pizza with blood beef.
Sounds great to me. Try pizza is good. Anyway, yeah, I had a good time. The LobbyCon was actually fantastic, even though there wasn't enough seating by far. It was probably like one of the most extensive LobbyCons I've ever been to. Actually, probably the most extensive LobbyCon I've ever been to. Just in terms of like everybody was there, the entire. Like, but also because they had.
Yeah, I feel like nowhere close to everybody was there. There were just so
that
many
is true.
people
There were just a
there
lot
that
of people
even
there.
though like 20%
But-
of them went to LobbyCon, that was like the hotel was like stuffed to the.
Nobody was getting kicked out either, which is great because
Nice.
the Magiccon had booked basically like I think like at least half of the hotel, and then the other half was actually very funny. It was the Chicago Dentists Association convention that was also happening that weekend. Very funny. A couple of stories about that. There was somebody walking around with their Magiccon badge on a dental convention lanyard for the entire weekend. It was a
Dude,
good time.
That was CGB.
Oh, was it? I didn't. That's so funny.
Just is it? Does anyone like any of the dentists be like, "Oh my God, magic is here too"? Like the crossover event.
But anyway, it was a great time. Didn't get kicked out. So we did LobbyCon. Sunday was fun. I got to play the Pikmin cube, which was a huge amount of fun. I crushed Morgan with the card that he crushed other people with. It was great. It's a lot of context. I'm not sure that I can explain the entire thing, but good cube. There was a card in there that's a bit overtuned right now, and has had some iterations done on it. I drafted 2 of them plus some other stuff to synergize with it. It was a good time.
Nice. Cool. So all in all, successful event.
Yeah, I'd say so. It's also just
For sure.
Magiccon's one of those ones where when everybody's there, and basically everybody was there this time, it's just a great time because you just get to see all these people you haven't seen in forever, right? And just say hi and hang out and get games in. And if you never don't get games in, you just get to see them.
Is there
And that's
any
enough sometimes.
events, other like things happening this year that are like people are like, okay, we're all going to this one?
Probably Vegas again, I would assume.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, presumably.
That's usually the one. But this one was
Well-
like also massive.
Has that been announced yet?
Who knows? It's definitely happening. Like I can't imagine that they're not gonna run.
Oh, it'll
Yeah.
happen, but just like have they set the
Vegas.
date yet?
Who knows? Magic. I'll look it up right now while you introduce the next thing because I'm pretty sure.
I was gonna say, well, and we go from one weekend to
website?
the next, where you guys are traveling yet again,
yeah,
going to Boston this time for an actual CDH event.
actual CDH tournament. Different
Yeah.
vibe. Equally as actually, I actually think I liked Boston better. Honestly,
You won. Is
Chicago
that-
was a great time.
if you
but
didn't win, if you scrubbed out, would you still like?
I
it
no,
more?
it was still a great vibe, and the entire weekend was just good. Just a good time
Nice.
overall. Basically, like not a boring minute. It was a good time. So, basically, Turtle Pod, Third Impact, Mirak, one of them. Those are all the same person, by the way. And then Upset, were reached out to me and were like, hey, we're like running an event in Boston. Do you want to come out? And I was like, absolutely, because I've known CDH people in Boston for actually the majority of a decade at this point without never having actually gone out.
It was the
Boston?
OG like big meta, right?
Yeah, like Shaper, Lurker, Biopower, a bunch of other. I think Maynard was in Boston as well. Maynard Ferguson.
Yeah.
Just like a bunch of like people like who are OGs from the r/CDH server from when I was initially like getting involved and starting to play CDH and stuff, and just like good friends for basically the entirety of my history in the format since then. And they've always been out there, and I've gone to I've seen Shaper on the West Coast in Seattle after he moved out there. I've never been to Boston, and it's like an hour flight away, an hour and a half flight away. So I was like, yes, absolutely. If I have an invite and I can couch crash, for sure. They invited me to couch crash, by the way. It didn't just like say, hey, let me sleep on your couch.
Knock. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi. So yeah, I was just like, absolutely, I'll come out and make it happen. Funny story. Morgan was originally sort of waffling because he had to work out dates for like other personal stuff, and it's like, you know, the weekend after Chicago and stuff like that. So I basically like set up the entire trip by myself, assuming that Morgan wasn't coming, and then like 3 weeks before the event, he's just like, "Oh yeah, so what's the deets on the Boston thing?" And I was like, "Wait, what? Huh?" All right.
But it actually worked out really well because separately, Lurker, like I'd been chatting with Lurker, and he was like, "Yeah, like if anyone's ever in Boston, like you're welcome to crash on my couch." And I was like, "Actually, I might take you up on that."
In like 2 weeks, no notice. Yeah. So
yeah,
got out.
big thanks to him for hosting me on short notice.
Oh yeah, I mean, just
and,
like
chauffeuring us around
ahead of
when necessary.
ahead of all of this, just like thanks to everybody for the hospitality. Like everybody in Boston was great. It was a great time all around. We hung out with like a bunch of people who we'd actually met a lot of them before, because it turns out a lot of the people in Boston are tournament grinders as well, and have like been out to large events. So it was great to see them all again. And then yeah, so it was actually fun because we flew out to Boston on the Friday, and it was actually probably the most painless travel experience I think we've had so far in terms of going to CDH tournaments. Because we flew out of the...
I feel like when we flew to Philly, that was also pretty painful.
Philly was pretty, relatively painless. This one was like very easy though, I feel like abnormally easy. Because it was... So we flew out of the Island Airport in Toronto, which is very nice because... flying out of the Pearson International, which is the big airport, is like, it's not actually in the city of Toronto, it's way out west, and both me and Morgan are on the eastern side of the city. So it takes like an hour to drive out there, and it's a bit of a nightmare because you have to drive on the highway, which isn't the 401 like the busiest highway in North America or something? Yeah. So you have to drive in the busiest highway in North America to get out there, usually at rush hour. It's not a good time. Island Airport, on the other hand, is downtown. It takes like half an hour to get to from anywhere within the city, and is a much nicer airport.
I didn't even know about this airport. What?
Domestic and whatever flights. It's really nice.
You didn't know that they're like on the island?
No.
Yeah, it's
I
great.
only know about Pearson. Yeah.
Yeah, it's also
Billy Bishop.
It's also Billy Bishop Airport has
I've heard of Billy Bishop. Okay.
It also has the shortest ferry in the world because you can ferry across from the mainland to the island, and it's like 200 meters. It's not even that. It's like less than that. It's like
why not just build a bridge?
They do. There's an underground tunnel.
Okay.
You can also take the ferry if you want instead of taking the tunnel. They still run it.
That's insane.
It's very fun.
I don't know why you would want that.
Because it's the shortest ferry in the world. It's great. It's the shortest ferry somewhere.
Why is there a ferry? They have a perfectly serviceable tunnel.
Yeah, you take it up with them. Anyway, great time. The airport's very nice. We got there early in the morning. The terminal was basically entirely empty. It was awesome. We got to the States. Basically nothing on that side either. Got picked up. It was good. What do we get? I guess we can just talk about... Oh, no. Sorry. Before we even get to the tournament, I also... they reached out to me. I think Upset reached out when we were still in Chicago, so the weekend before, and asked about the cube that we were talking about on the previous episode, and said, like, hey, do you guys actually, like, have this, / can you bring it out? Because it's sort of like... They were like, it's, like, trivial for us to get 8 people together to run a cube, so... Like, if you can bring out a cube, we can absolutely play it. And I was just like, no, but I can make it happen. So I basically just completely sleeved up my relatively untested cube. Went to Staples, printed it out, got all the sleeves together, bought some packs of basic lands from Face to Face, and sleeved up most of it, and then flew out, and we spent an afternoon cutting out the rest of the proxies and sleeving them up for the cube.
Nice.
And then we got to play my cube in real life, which was sick.
How did it go?
It was so much fun, and I think everybody had a fun time. It was basically as well as it could have gone.
I don't know that all of my opponents had a fun time. My deck was pretty gross.
Mine was also pretty gross. I maintain that I lost in the finals to variance. But
okay. So just to be clear, it was a quick 2-0.
It was very.
And then he demanded a salt game and lost that one extremely
the 6
quickly.
in the salt game, and it wasn't a good hand. I never saw the integral parts of the deck in any of the games. Anyway,
he got rolled 3 times in a row in like 30 minutes. Variance, my ass.
Anyway,
was it by you, Morgan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
we played in the finals of the cube. Yes.
We did also discover that only in America, actually, I think it might be in Canada, but we discovered in America, Subway sells a foot-long
No,
cookie.
we didn't get it.
Oh,
You just reminded me
I've
that
heard
we
about
did.
that.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so sad. The footlong cookie would have been the play. We both saw it. We saw it on advertising and like locked eyes at the exact same second. It was just like,
We were like, okay, so this is terrible, but also
we
like,
sort of have to
both
do
kind
this,
of
right?
want it, right?
So I totally forgot about that. I guess we just have to do that next time we're in the States. Hopefully that
I
it doesn't
think they
like
do it
stop being a
here.
promotion.
I think they do it here.
Really?
I think they do it because I looked it up when I got
That's so
back,
much
and I
less
was like,
special
oh my
then,
God,
because
like,
it makes it's so
I
much
know.
more entertaining to go to America and see the footlong cookie at Subway for the first
It
time.
feels like something that would be an only in America thing.
Right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so we got the...
Also, Lyndon, if you want to see the disgustingness that is my deck, I just threw it.
Oh
up
yeah,
in the
it was
recording
pretty
chat.
gross. I put in... I made a bunch of last minute alterations to the cube. I can post the cube list, I guess, in the episode as well. Link list in episode description. There we go.
Oh my god. This thing
Yeah,
is
his deck was crack.
Wow.
Yeah, he was playing Jeskai Twin with like fraction identity.
No, there was green in there for exactly.
Oh right,
the
sorry. It was 4-color Omnath Twin with like 3 Teferi on 3, fraction identity, like Ragavan, force of will and force of negation. Just like a lot of just like not reasonable things. Both Twin and Kiki, etc.
Yeah, that was stupid.
Decks were fun though. I think everybody like had a generally good time though there, which is a great sign.
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
got some good actionable feedback too. And now that I have it together, we have no excuse for not playing in IRL when everybody's in the city. So
Yeah, but like also
Slash-
just get NPC cards. So
what? No, well that's all sleeved up. And
yeah,
everything,
but
ready to
it's
go already.
paper proxies. Come on.
Yeah, but the entire thing is paper proxy, which means that it's easy to swap out, and I don't have to like order new cards when the painful part's over.
True,
Anyway,
you want to do a lot of changes and adjustments.
yeah.
Fair
So if anybody's around in Toronto and wants to run a cube sesh, I am absolutely down. I'm not sure that we'll be able to make the 8 happen easily, but I am happy to try to make it happen because cube's great. Anyway,
Sweet. Okay, on to the tournament.
yeah.
So first of all, what did you guys bring? What was the number of people in the tournament? What was the prizing? What was the structure? Give me all the deets.
So it was a 50. It ended up being like a 58 person, I think, 2K, 59 person, something like that. There were some people that signed up that had to DQ out because they couldn't make it, I think. So I think it regged up to like a bit over 64, but ended up playing at 58. It was a 2K. The prizing structure was it priced out to top 10, right? Or was it top 16?
Yeah.
Top 10?
I think it was
Priced down to top 10.
No, it was top 10.
So it was actually interesting. It was a 5-round, then cut to top 10. 5-round of Swiss, cut to top 10, which is really cool. I actually really like the format a lot. Apparently, it's something they do a lot in Boston for tournaments, where you do like basically the top 2 get free buys to the finals round, and then the other 8 play 2 pods to determine who gets to make it in the finals
I
or
like that.
semifinals game.
I like that.
Which is really fun. And also, it's really good at encouraging people not to ID in later rounds of Swiss too, because like if you're in contention for top 2 seeds, but you're already locked for top 16, like your incentive is just to not draw and just to play and try to get the win so that you can like get the vine to the finals round. Which is really sick because it again encourages people to actually just like play the game, play Magic, which is hot and great and cool. And also, I got first seed out of Swiss, so I was really happy about getting a bot at top pod and getting
I don't know,
to
man.
go
I think-
first in finals.
I think 005 for 16th is the best.
Best possible. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so it was fun. It was at King's Court Gaming. I'm pretty sure we talked about this in previous, but it was great at King's Court Gaming in somewhere in Boston. I don't know, or somewhere outside of Boston,
Taunton, I want to
something
say.
like that. Anyway, great store. First of all, fantastic store. The owner was awesome. Space is good. There were like 4 separate like widescreen TVs in the space that because it could fit everybody. It's like 2 stories. There's a basement and a main floor. There were like 4 separate widescreen TVs. One of them was running the round timer for the entire tournament, and the other 3 were running like just like
Your childhood.
just like your childhood animation shows, and it was great, but also incredibly difficult
Last
not to.
Airbender, Yu-Gi-Oh,
Oh,
Pokemon.
wow.
Yeah, it was just like great shows running in the background, and took a lot of mental energy for me to not just be staring at them for like half of the entire tournament,
Read
which is
Subway Surfer, Family Guy clips mentality.
unironically, yes. I noticed when like it was like halfway through tournament, it's starting to be like, you're starting to like get into the later rounds. You just like want to take your mind off of the tournament for a second and reset it between rounds. I noticed a moment when both me and Ian, so comedian, also showed up to play in the event because he's sort of Boston local. Both me and Ian were just staring at the TV, and I could tell that we were both just like, we need to not be doing this right now, but also it's so enticing just to turn our brains off and just stare at the cartoons.
So, listeners, in case you ever run into Reed in tournament, like he's just revealed his ultimate weekness, which is just bring an iPad with
An iPad with Family Guy clips.
Yeah. It's over.
Dude, there was
Cooked.
one of the pods I was like facing directly
Yep.
at the TV playing The Last Airbender, and I was like, this is like such a disadvantage.
What season were they playing?
It was the one of the episodes they were running was the chase episode where they're like Appa gets tired and they're all trying to go without sleep, and the
That's good.
firebending
Yeah,
group
yeah.
is chasing them with lizards and stuff like that. Yeah, great episode, fantastic episode. And then so anyway, back to the tournament. Yeah, so sorry, we didn't mention Ian, comedian, also showed up for this one, which is a great time, and is also, it's sort of incredibly weird to show up in back-to-back weekends, do different events in different cities, and just say hi to Ian to both of them, and like hang out with him for the weekend.
Yeah.
Very weird. Good time though. Always a good time to see Ian. I hadn't seen him in a while before Chicago, and he was also obviously very busy in Chicago along with the rest of the real content creators, who actually had content badges and had to do like panels and signings and stuff. Thankfully
God, could you
we're
imagine?
washed and aren't real content creators, so we just like got to do whatever we wanted all weekend instead. It was a good time. Anyway, back to Boston. So I guess we can talk about decks. Morgan, you want to go first?
Sure. So I was bringing just an iteration on the TNT deck I've been having success with, and I scrubbed out the classic 0-3 drop. Happens every once in a while.
Abs is the best of us.
I ran into. I feel like I won't go through my bad beats, but I feel like I have like pretty exceptional like. Oh wow, yeah, no that. Like 99 times out of 100 that goes differently for you. Stories of just running into extremely wacky cards from my opponents that happen to be very good against me in that exact position.
You want to list off? Just give us one of them as a taste.
Sure. The Tishana's Tidebinder and Subtlety were some of my less favorite ones to have played against me. So I will say, getting Thrasios Tishana's Tidebinder when there was a Winota in the pod felt especially bad.
Just painful.
It's like, I feel like there might be a more important thing to make lose all abilities than my
Than the
Thrasios that I can
that's
only
activated
afford
once
to
a turn
activate
cycle.
once a turn.
Yeah. Lyndon, have you experienced Tishana's Tidebinder yet, by the way?
I put into some decks, but
It's in Orvar?
Orvar,
It's so
Orvar,
not okay in
and
Orvar.
Azami.
Actually, so sorry, we're gonna continue getting to Boston in a second. It just keeps bringing up. I just keep remembering stories from Chicago as well, so we'll just top lines
yeah.
of it. Chicago, I was playing Cole in a pod with Morgan playing Orvar, and he got a Tishana's Tidebinder into play, not targeting any of my stuff. That's fine, whatever. And then held up like 3 mana for the rest of the game while I had a Skull Clamp in play, and I was just like, I can never activate this fucking Skull Clamp because then I'm gonna have a Skull Clamp that doesn't do anything. And then I had a Welder in play too, like a Goblin Welder, and I was just like, this doesn't matter because I'm gonna activate the Welder, and then it's also not gonna have abilities for the rest of the game.
Brutal.
Anyway, very fun. So I ended up bringing have to because this is some of the Boston guys. So I've been working at. I guess I haven't like actually fully revealed it because I think I was dancing around it, like the topic on the last episode that we talked about. the deck that I'm playing, but
yeah, you were very coy.
it was just sort of in the development stage. I guess it's just out in the public for real now at this point. So might as well talk about it. And we will a bit more in depth later. But I've been playing a version of Sisay Weatherlight Captain for the last few months at this point, which I've been pretty into, and I think is a pretty good build, and it scratches a lot of the right itches for me, and I think it's like also relatively well positioned in the current meta, which is fun. So it's just like a general overview is it's a sort of just like a 5-color soup deck. So like almost like Kenrith, like just a generic sort of 5-color Kenrith deck, except with like a minimal effective package of legends, just to make the Sisay actually function as a commander. So the upside is that you get to, you get a 3-mana commander that you can Jewel Lotus out for, just single colors. You can play Fierce Guardianship and Deflecting Swatch as that. You can play Deadly Rollick too if you want to. And then also in later games, if you have a decently sized Sisay, so say you have a couple of colors on a Sisay and it's a 4/4, you can maybe perhaps an end step spend Wooburg and get a 3 fairy uncounterably in an end step, and then untap and kill the table. Turns out very good in mid-range pods. Also, if you resolve a large enough dockside, you can just sort of like activate and get an MEL or do some chaining up to get an MEL, and then just like kill the table with dockside MEL. So there's some interesting stuff in there. It's been really fun to play. Anyway, so I brought that one to the tournament because that I've also been working on with Mirac Turtle Pod and Upset, so the guys who were very kindly housing me. So obviously I had to bring it to the tournament.
Were they all playing Sisay as well?
They were, yes. They are all playing the, what is now called, New England Clam Chowder.
Oh my god.
Is the name of the deck. Yeah. Great deck. Because it's 5-color soup. It's from Boston. It's soup, but it's from Boston. It's Boston soup. It's clam chowder.
It's such a vintage CDH deck name.
It is, and you know what? I appreciate it. I think we've lost a lot by, like, I understand new people getting into formats. It sucks to have, like, weird deck names, but I think we are losing a pretty major part of like a historical, part of the historical Magic community.
You heard it here first. Reed wants Farm to come back. Every deck needs to be a Farm deck.
Actually, Farm was fine when it was restricted to the decks that actually like were Farm decks, and it only became not fine when it became a general descriptor for an archetype.
Okay, sorry.
And not even an archetype, just like anything. Anyway, yeah. So
I will say. Certainly I think the Boston meta is unrivaled when it comes to the shitposting.
Oh, absolutely. Again, Turtle is like the only good CDH shitposter, I'm sorry to say. Like, especially on Twitter. Oh my god. He has the only CDH Twitter like account that I actually like pay attention to and read tweets from. It's just so good. If you're not following, is it TurtlePod or is it Third Impact on Twitter?
I think it's is it Thrasios Passios on Twitter?
I'm almost certain.
There's so many
changed it. I'm gonna scroll through Twitter and try to find. Oh, it is Thrasios Passios.
It's Thrasios Passios.
If you're not following Thrasios Passios on Twitter, I would go ahead and drop a follow his way because he just never misses. The tweets are consistently great. Anyway,
definitely missing out on the hottest additions to the CEDH shitposting meta.
For real. So yeah, we got into the tournament. I guess Morgan's not going to give much of a recap because variance does happen. I mean, the last two events that I brought this deck to before this one in Buffalo, I also scrubbed because it was not a good time. And it was still doing some optimizations and stuff and some tinkering, but
How different was this list compared to your the list you took to Buffalo?
Previous ones?
Yeah.
You know what? I could actually check this right now because I have a log of every tournament deck that I played in the last 3 years. Tournament lists. Let's compare them. Last time I played in a tournament, and we'll compare these.
I have a very incomplete log of all the tournament decks I've played in the last 2 years.
There were 4 cards different, actually. So not that much,
Okay.
but some pretty integral ones. I cut Adnaz from the last time that we were playing.
Nice.
Which is a weird one. I think... I actually really... It's a weird one. It's not actually... This is not a reason why anybody else should cut Nas. But I very much enjoyed cutting Nas from decks that don't absolutely need it, or like just are like fine with Nas, but like don't need it as like a primary game plan and sort of want to be doing other stuff. A lot of the time, because I like having the political angle of I don't have Nas in my deck to not get attacked.
Okay, whoa, listen, we got to give shout out to a friend of the show, longtime friend of the show, Zach,
Absolutely,
who's been on this meta game for like half a decade.
It's just so powerful to be able to say you don't have Nas in your deck.
The reason I like cutting Nas is literally because then the little voice at the back of my, whenever I look at like a 3-drop that's like very impactful, the little voice at the back of my head that's like, but you can't play this, you have to keep Nas curve down, just shuts up, and I'm like, I'll just try it, you know, like I'll just evaluate this card on its own merits rather than like how it like affects a potential.
That's where I'm at. I there's a lot of, for me, it's now not just slap Nas in the deck. It's very much like Nas needs to be like a very key part of my game plan to want to do it, because like, you know, in most of my blue decks, it's like I like running Misdirection. I also like running One Ring, and just there's so many much higher CMC cards now that you want to run, and then you're like, actually, well, am I really gonna do Nas? Like, I guess it's still fun, but like, no. I'm
cutting it has actually also from like this essay list has actually, I think, improved my mulligans, weirdly enough, because it's given me a bit more leeway to like run some of the like quote unquote clunkier like 4 mana value engines that sort of the idea of, I gotta give a quick rundown because it'll make this like argument make sense. The idea of like a lot of the mulliganing in the deck that I'm playing right now is that like you sort of mulligan to like fast mana plus like a big value engine, so like One Ring, Rhystic Study, Esper Sentinel, Mystic Remora, even like Archivist of Ogma, and then like Smothering Tithe, and even I've been playing Minsk and Boo recently as well.
Really?
Just as like 4 mana, like just big things that you can slam early and then sort of ride them to like advantage state.
Okay.
After that, because you really need that when you're like playing a sort of mid-rangey deck. I mean, that can be fast. It's on Breach. It's on like that kind of stuff, but like big dockside stuff. But you're missing Sisay, or Tymna in the command zone from like 4-color versions of this kind of deck. So you don't have like the inherent card advantage. So it's a lot more valuable or a lot more important to like have one of those things in your opening hand if you're not just trying to kill on turn 2.
No, I agree with that. Just Minsk and Boo is an interesting choice.
Yeah, we can go into this.
He has a whole spiel of Kofi.
I'll talk about when we're talking about the list a bit later in the episode. But I don't want to get too far off. I mean, we're very far off. We're like
let's wrap up boss and get into
let's get the actual thing nailed down. So I hadn't really been playing Magic before coming out. I got a couple of like testing games in and stuff. Chicago was actually nice to like spark my interest in the format again, like sort of quickly ahead of time, and like make me interested in like
shake
actually thinking about it. Yeah, exactly. Got some games in, shake rest off, get actually thinking about the list. Talked with the guys ahead of time, got some stuff like cycled in and out of the list, got it adjusted a bit, and then so came to the tournament. Ended up playing. I don't have full recollection of the rounds off the top of my head. I probably could if I like sifted through the like the top 16 page, but I don't fully remember all of them. All right, so I have the some of the rounds pulled up here, so I can sort of talk through them. Ended up round 1, hopping in a pod with Eric and Jack, who I've actually, I think I've played both of them before. Might not have played Eric before. I've definitely seen him before. Have played Jack before at the first Punt City, and then we had played, or at least I believe we had both attended Oktoberfest as well. So, super great person to play with. I remember the pod that we played in at Punt City was actually probably, I think, the best round of CDH I've ever played in terms of pace of play. Everybody was super down to, like, including Jack, especially Jack, actually, like, keeping on pace of, like, just making sure that things are happening in the right order, double-checking life totals after every life total change, but, like, just making sure that actions are happening in a reasonable amount of like game time, and it was basically the same this pod as well. This pod was great for like pace of play, for just, there are a couple of thinking turns, but for the most part it was like very smooth. So this one was fun because it was Roxai in first seat, and me in second seat, and then Teen K in third seat, and I forget who, but I believe it was a deck that wasn't particularly interactive in fourth seat. It was the mono black Warhammer 40k precon in fourth seat.
Oh wait, which one was the face commander for that? Was that the like artifact graveyard ability?
Yeah, no. It wasn't Trazyn. It was the like you attack and mill and can cast artifacts, I think, or something like that. Something like that. Anyway. So anyway, Rogside going first in that pod, a bit scary. Me and Jack thankfully both mulligan to free-ish interaction. Jack, I mulligan to a Force of Negation without a blue card. Jack apparently mulligan to Force of Will with a blue card. So Rogside actually tests the Force on turn 1 with an attempted turn on Rhystic Study. It gets forced, thankfully enough. I untap, get to draw, I believe I draw a blue card here, I draw a blue card later. The Rockside then tests, I think on either turn 2 or turn 3, force checks again with a Naz, and then I actually have the blue card this time, so I have the Force of Negation for the Naz, and now, like, Rockside is basically dead in the water, like, having none of the stuff, although, an impressive showing, like, trying to, like, on the play, trying to land turn on Rhystic Study into, like, having a backup Naz still ready to go. I managed to resolve a One Ring and sort of rode that one to victory after a few turns because, deck is very good with Run Ring. You're like a breachy, fast mana deck. You're on like, you have like Spirit Guides and Mana Vault and like some of the fast mana and stuff. So like you're well prepared to take advantage of a large amount of card draw. You also have a Derevi in there, and turns out Derevi One Ring's really good. Turns out the current Derevi deck is sort of using that one as their as their main win con. I can also do that because they're both legends and they're both tutorable out of the command zone, so pretty sick. So I rode a One Ring to victory that game, which is pretty nice. Got next round, I ended up in a pod with actually Biopower, which is sick because I also got to meet Biopower in real life. Biopower is an OG of the CDH community. Former tournament grinder, I think like mod on a lot of the spaces as well. Old school Boston player. And it was my first time getting to meet him in real life, which is sick. Got into a pod with him, which was also awesome. He's still playing Thrasios Tymna cards that I like playing, which is sick. I love that deck so much, as anybody who knows me knows. He's playing stuff like, I think he just recently cut Drennan Linvala from the deck, but is still playing like just a bunch of other sauce. I didn't get to see the entire list, but there's some good stuff in there, some fun stuff. And yeah, got to play in a pod with, I think it was Thrasios Tymna. So he was in Thras Tymna. We had I forget who was first. I think it was Kinnan first, Thras Tymna second, me third, and then somebody fourth, forget. This game also turns out ended with One Ring Derevi. I think the last game, I don't think I had a Derevi. This round, I definitely did have a Derevi with a One Ring and drew a lot of cards and won through a Ranger Captain because turns out Dockside MBL stuff doesn't require casting non-creature spells to win, which is pretty sick. I did, though, have to do a weird win line this game, which is very fun, which is that I was Ranger Captained, and there was a Thassa's Oracle in my hand, but my Kinnan had been stolen and my Orcish Bowmasters was in the graveyard. And the only other way of me getting through my deck was to do MEL Flicker Derevi untap One Ring, draw with One Ring. But you don't draw one card at a time with One Ring. You draw ever increasing amounts of cards. So they were asking me to represent the win, so I had to be like, okay, I need to count the cards in my deck so that I know how many times I can activate the One Ring, so that I don't just deck myself, but I also have few enough cards left in my deck where I can cast this like Thassa's Oracle out of my hand and actually win the game. So it took a bit of like me having to like actually literally go through and count my deck and then thin out the deck by fetching legendaries out of it with Sisay until it was at the right size.
Oh, that's cool.
So that I could twiddle one ring to draw out and then cast with Thassa's Oracle to win.
Nice.
Very fun. Morgan did not like having to witness it, but the table was asking me to present a win, so I presented them a win.
Yeah, in that, see, this was after I, my game ended after I interacted 3 times through a defense grid, and then we died to the next player.
Yeah, Morgan spent 11 mana on interaction and then died. It's very unfortunate.
I was begging the wrong side player not to, but they're like, but I have this defense grid. I'm like, yep, you sure do.
It was a defense grid pass?
No, it was
defense grid attempt to win.
Okay, I mean,
it was defense grid Nas with no, but I was like, it's not gonna work. They had Nas with backup, and then yes, they had defense grid Nas with backup, and then I let the Nas resolve rather than tainted pacting for a counterspell because they were at like 19 or something, and they hit Culling, Beseech the Mirror, and Pact, and I was like, fantastic. So they have a protected breach here, which I was able to get through by with the breach on the stack. I tainted pacted. They burned the pact on the tainted pact, so I couldn't get like Besage You or something, and then I enduranced their graveyard, and they were stuck because they had no mana. And then we died to the Silas Sakashima player. I'm still struggling to get my head around that one.
It's Dimir midrange. What more could you want? What other explanation do you need?
But like, why those?
Why those?
I'm thinking about it too much.
Like, what?
That's what I'm saying.
Of all the things to put with Silas, a second Silas.
You're thinking about it too much.
That feels like Silas feels like a card that has heavily diminishing returns. Like one Silas isn't great to begin with. I feel like the second Silas is like double Timna's. Oh baby. But I feel like the second Silas is worth maybe half as much as the first Silas.
Double Timna doesn't let you cast 2 spell bombs out of the graveyard every turn.
Yeah, but you have to have 2 spell bombs in the graveyard.
Yeah, but when you have 2 spell bombs, oh buddy, we're going, we're rolling.
Yeah, but what about when you don't?
So the next round that I played, weird fact, and we were both very shocked when we realized this in the pod. So this pod was Ian Flannery, comedian, going first on Atali.
Ian Falafel.
Going first on Atali. So Ian was playing Gruul Atali this tournament. Was also undefeated up to this point. We were both 2-0 at this round. Along with a Italian deck and a Malcolm Vile Smasher deck. Ian's going first. I'm going last. I Tumbled a 5, which is not great. It was also not a good 5. It was basically on the plan of, I think the plan was something like cast Dorks, cast Sisay, eventually activate Sisay until I can win. It was not a good plan. I think I had like a piece of interaction and that's it. And then the rest of the hand was bad mana, like slowish mana. When we got to this pod, me and Ian realized this was the first time me and Comedian have ever played in tournament.
Really?
Yep.
Which
After
is wild.
However
Sure
many years of
like
playing in the same events, being at the same tournaments, being at playing the same online events, playing in the same IRL tournaments, just like all like we've been like on this like similar circuit for like 3 or 4 years at this point, 3 years at least, and we have apparently never played up until this point.
Dude, that's insane. I think I played Ian at least
wild.
Twice.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think I ever have.
After this tournament, you've played Ian as many times as I've met him in the finals.
that is crazy. Yeah, so we ended up playing. I'm not going to go through the entirety of this game, but suffice to say, so it went to a draw. Off of the back of Ian basically going for win attempts every turn off of just slamming Atali over and over, because it started by him casting Atalia on turn 2 on the play. For the first time, and then it only went downhill from there. He ended up taking, in the course of the game, both my Soul Cauldron and my Kutzel out of the deck, which is very scary. But eventually couldn't quite get it. Made a misplay right at the end, and couldn't quite get through a very interesting board state, and had to hand it off, at which point the round went to time. Which I was very happy about, because I don't think I was ever winning that game, because, again, multi-5, basically nothing going on, didn't draw into anything for the entirety of the game. Very happy to get that to go to a draw. Ian did have a breakdown of his run, though, for this tournament on his YouTube page, if you want to go check that out, including this round, where he does a much more in-depth. He actually took, like, notes of the round and everything, and, like, game notes and all that stuff, so if you want to hear about it, go check that out.
He's a professional.
Yep. And we are not. The next round, I actually got to play with DJ Yavamaya, who was also at the tournament. We played in the feature pod. Yeah, it was sick. He was playing Tameshi. Deck is getting sicker every time they print a new set, because it turns out they just keep printing artifacts, and cheap artifacts are what that deck wants. And they keep printing cheap artifacts, and they do random things, and sometimes Tameshi wants the random things that the cheap artifacts do. So the deck is sick. This round, I actually managed to win this round off the back of a very large dockside, which is sort of what the deck is designed to do. Only after just barely dodging a turn 2 win out of Tameshi in 4th seat.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
He actually would have killed us if he didn't cast a Seal of Removal at the start of his turn. Because he cast a Seal Removal at the start of the turn, and then through a large sequence after that was a blue mana off of being able to kill us.
Holy shit!
So if he had not cast it and instead just gone through his turn and then used it, and the Seal Removal was actually part of the win. He just needed to cast it after making infinite mana instead of casting it at the start. If he had not cast it at the start and instead cast it at the end, he would have killed us on turn 2 out of Tameshi.
That's
which is like incredibly spoofy. It was actually sick. The line would have been a artifact land, copy artifact LED line, which is sick. Because you basically, the copy artifact becomes an artifact land, and then you return it to your hand to rebuy the LED, which makes mana, and then you can recast the copy artifact to become an artifact land again, so you profit mana with that, and then you would use the Seal of Removal to bounce Tameshi, and then replay Tameshi and rebuy the Seal of Removal to draw your deck. Which is a sick outlet.
That is a wild line.
Yeah. It was awesome. I'm super happy. We actually, spoiler alert, we see DJ later in the tournament as well. He actually made it into the finals, which was awesome to see on Tameshi. I know Lyndon is going to appreciate that.
Yes, I am.
Two-color
and
commander.
Playing a fringe commander and taking that to the finals.
Absolutely. So definitely go check that list out. It's a sick list. Tameshi's getting better all the time. I'm not sure it's great, like super, super great right now, like super top tier, but it's got some stuff. And the fact that like it can win by just activating Tameshi a bunch with most of its pieces in the graveyard, and it's really hard to deal with that deck if there's just a Tameshi in play, because you can't really just remove their pieces because they just buy them back. It's sick. Cool. And then in round 5, I actually had to playing around with Steve Hagen, who's also Bostonite tournament grinder, plays Crom Rayhan, a man after our own hearts. Because, well, I'm not sure if you remember.
Is that the food chain?
No, actually, it's the.
Funnily enough, it used to be. That was Crom Bunch.
Yes, that was Crom Bunch.
The rules change they made to make Commander
Punch.
Death Triggers works killed Crom Punch.
Which is very unfortunate. But yeah, so the deck's actually sick. It's like it's sort of like Icrom E, except it's got like Razaketh, and also it's got some Soul Cauldron stuff in it, because Rayhan comes in with 3/1/1 counters.
Ooh.
Yeah, and then if you sack the Rayhan, the counters move over as well to other
that's
stuff.
Interesting.
So you can get some really cool stuff going with Soul Cauldron, and then obviously it's a 4-color deck with a Crom in the command zone, so it's just like pretty good at a base level anyway. Really cool deck. He's been playing it for a while now, and it's awesome to see again. So ended up in a pod with him and a couple of other players. I was going last this time as well. You might have noticed that my seats this tournament so far have been, I believe, 2 and then 3-4-3-4. Very fun.
Pretty sure that's what I had at Punt City.
Yeah. Did manage to take down this round as well, though. I am forget. Oh, right, yes. Very long, protracted win attempt from the rest of the table, with a lot of interaction being held up. The gist of it was basically that I was stuck in last position with. I knew about a mind break trap and a piece of interaction that was probably just like an instant sorcery interaction piece, and my hand was Grand Abolisher, Ragavan, Neoform with a Sisay in play, but I didn't quite have enough mana to Grand Abolisher and then cast Ragavan and then Neoform it into Dockside. I had to go Ragavan, Neoform, Dockside, and then cast a Grand Abolisher, which would have opened it up to the Mindbreak Trap.
Yeah.
Oh, and then, sorry, I had a Diabolic Intent as well, I'm pretty sure. No, it's a DT. Sorry, it was a D-Tutor. And so I had to maneuver the turn while talking about it, because basically I was never getting another turn cycle. It's one of those games. I was never getting another turn if I passed turn here. And I had to maneuver it to make them think that it was okay to let the Demonic Tutor resolve, so that I could tutor for an MEL, like after resolving the Dockside. And then I cast the Grand Abolisher as Mindbreak Trap bait, and then slam the MEL, which the instant sorcery piece of interaction could interact with.
Damn.
And managed to get there. So, yeah, managed to lock up top seed, undefeated in the Swiss, 401. Pretty happy about that. Got to skip semis. Went and got some great Greek food with Ian, who was seated second in the Swiss after Swiss. Or who was seated second after Swiss, which is crazy because he did it on the Dino. Did it on Gruel Italy. Crazy, huh?
Yeah, I that's maybe like just one of the most impressive things.
The deck,
Gruel Italy. I've not seen that like CDH list.
It's like weirdly
you just
good
kind of
at some
slam
things.
the dinosaur and
you just
good cards.
slam it early and then slam it often and like make copies of it and stuff, and just like basically roll the dice on flipping good stuff, and you'll eventually flip good stuff off the top of people's libraries and win.
That feels like such an Ian deck, because he played Paco Holden for such a long time.
He also
there's such a clone proliferation that things get very silly a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Oh,
games
because of other
Dino
people's clones too.
Yeah, games with the
just
Dino
hit like I was like, oh, your metamorph
weird.
that you put in for the One Ring? Yes, I will cast that for free. Copy Itali and get another trigger. Thank you very much.
And then other people copy it as well. Morgan has the classic line of Worldly Tutor Razaketh at the top of my library. Cast Fibbage, copy Gatali, cast Razaketh for free off the top. Great one.
That was a good feeling.
Ian did admit, though, when he was talking about about how it felt great to play a deck where the onus of interaction was squarely off of his shoulders, and he sort of just got to sit there adjusting the board state, sort of sorting his cards, keeping track of counters on other people's board states because he had nothing else to do. And then slamming the Dino and seeing what happens. Yeah, great time. And then we got to the final spot. So because I was top seed, I ended up being able to play first. Ian got to play second. Eric, the Rockside player from my round 1, also made it into the final spot, was in seat 3, and then DJ was in seat 4. So pretty stacked pod, actually, I'd say, in general. And turns out, ended up being a bit of a non-game, because I kept a hand that had an E-tutor for a Mana Crypt, and then a couple of tutors and a Dockside and an interactive piece in hand. So it was top deck tutor, 2 additional tutors, Dockside, interactive piece, and some lands. And the first round of the game, I went first, land pass. The rest of the players in the pod collectively dumped 7 artifacts and enchantments into play. And then I end step tutored for a Mana Crypt, untapped, cast Dockside, and did stupid things and killed them on the play on turn 2. And that's,
I hope you feel proud of yourself.
I absolutely feel proud of myself, because turns out people don't think that Sisay is going to kill you on turn 2 that often, and then I did, because I have a Breach in the deck.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've heard that Breach is a good card.
Good one, right? Yeah.
Okay,
I heard that
well,
one too.
Actually, I think it's bad. It's, to quote that just all-time classic Reddit comment, regrowth with extra steps.
Yes. Hey man, I just kept rebuying the same Chain of Vapor over and over again to buy back my Dockside and my Wishclaw Talisman. that's just a regrowth of after steps, right?
Like, I'll cop to under-evaluating Breach.
Yeah, when it was initially
like, you know, I was like,
absolutely, yeah.
You know, this is like a Yogg's Will.
Yeah, it's like worse
And
Yogg's
it's a
Will,
lot
right?
better than Yogg's Will.
And it's actually much better than Yogg's Will.
But regrowth.
So you won. You know, congratulations.
I did manage to take it down. Thank you.
Now, give us a bit more of a breakdown on Sisay, because we were teasing a bit of it earlier, but yeah, let's give us the juicy details.
Yeah, so I mean, at least my kind of where I like to sit with the deck is that I like to classify the legends in Sisay into the categories embarrassing and not embarrassing.
Wow, that's great.
And basically how you evaluate that is if you took this legend and put it into a Kenrith 5-color soup deck, would it be embarrassing? And if it is, then it's an embarrassing legend, and if it's not, then it's a not embarrassing legend. And my goal was sort of to have a functional Sisay deck with the fewest number of embarrassing legends in it, as well as having like the good 5-color stuff going on. So like a Breach package, Thassa's Oracle stuff, the bunch of the good staples. So like the good card draw, you know, like Rhystic Study, Fish, like Esper Sentinel, that kind of stuff. And I want to be able to take advantage of like the cards of those draws as well. So like I'm going to be playing fast mana. I'm going to be trying to get down on the board early. I want to be able to convert from a lot of different positions. If like the table draws me 14 cards off of whatever, or I can draw myself 14 cards off of One Ring or whatever, I want to be able to convert that and win, right?
Yeah.
So those are sort of the two fundamental ways that I've gone about building it. I know Turtle and Upset and everybody's been working on it in the Boston scene, like their versions, which are like pretty close as well. And they did a lot of the initial legwork, so thanks to those guys. They're working with a bit more extensive as a Sisay package, I think, and like, you know, some obvious like personal swaps and that stuff. For me, anybody who knows me, anybody who knows like how the decks that I like to build knows that I like super lean packages in general. I like to be able to cast my spells on time. I like a good amount of interaction, good amount of interaction, but it needs to be cheap, and I need to be able to use most of it to protect my own win attempts. And then I also want a good bit of fast mana to get down early. Like even in my Thrasios Timid decks, right, I'm playing like Elvish Spirit Guide in almost all of them, plus at least the artifact fast mana, even when I'm on Oof. Including Lotus Petal. So that's sort of like where it comes from. And then the deck just ends up being sort of a mix of Breach, Dockside abuse, because Dockside MEL kills and you can tutor out MEL with Sisay, so big enough Docksides just sort of kills the table. And then like Thassa's Oracle just sort of spread in there. And then one or potentially two like actual Sisay win conditions. The main one right now is Agatha's Soul Cauldron, which lets you activate Sisay for any color, which is sick, by the way. That's like pretty not okay.
Yeah.
Derevi,
Especially
MEL.
when Sisay tutors Cradle.
Yeah, exactly. So it's Derevi, MEL, Cradle, which is like the classic infinite mana line that, like, you know, like Blue Pod and Dawnwaker have been using that one forever. But the fact that the entire line is Sisay tutorable, plus the Agatha's Soul Cauldron fixes the guy's Cradle mana into being able to activate Sisay for mono green, means that it's like actually pretty easy to put it together if you just have some creatures lying around, because you can like end step, activate Sisay, go get a Soul Cauldron. You can even use the Soul Cauldron to pump Sisay if you need to, because I can put 1/1 counters on her by like exiling creatures from bins. And then you like untap, activate again, get a Guy's Cradle. Guy's Cradle taps for a bunch of mana. You use that to activate Sisay again, get Derevi, untap the Guy's Cradle, use it again to get the MEL, activate MEL Derevi, and then go infinite and do that kind of stuff. And then that's like about the extent of the Sisay package. The rest of it is just like stuff that you'd sort of be playing anyway, like Lotho and Kinnan, 3 Fairy, which is like a bit embarrassing, but I think like there are a lot of like 4 and 5 color decks that have been playing Teferi recently, even without like a Displacer Kitten in there, right? Just like sort of have it in there. It's a good card sometimes.
Yeah.
And then yeah, just like I think like Lotho, Ragavan, like that kind of stuff, One Ring, just like all stuff that you would sort of be playing a lot of the time anyway. in those decks. And then obviously the one that we were talking about earlier, Minsk and Boo. Which
Are
I guess
you still running
the
Talion?
spiel. I am not. I actually cut the Talion for Minsk and Boo, although I was on
Interesting.
Minsk and Boo and Talion for the tournament. The idea is that, okay, think about One Ring as a baseline, right?
Yeah.
So what's the card advantage curve on One Ring, right? So on the first turn that it's in play, it draws
First
you
turn
one card.
cycle, you get 3 cards.
For One Ring?
Yeah,
No, like I'm talking about like turn by turn. So like turn that it comes down, you get 1.
sure.
Next turn you get 2, so it's a total of 3. Next turn you get 6 total because you get another 3 on top of that 3, and then the turn after that you get 10 total, right?
Yep.
So it's actually like relatively slow growing, which is why like early One Rings are super important, and like later ones are a lot of the time sort of like more important for the protection. Like the protection becomes more important than it is usually, and then like the cards sort of matter less because you're getting fear of them. This could be sort of an interesting one because assuming that you can keep it alive, so it produces 0 cards on turn 1, but then it produces 4 cards and 4 damage on turn 2, which is more cards and Flame Slash on like when One Ring would be producing you 2 cards, bringing you up to 3 produced total. Minsk produces 4, and then also gives you a removal spell. And then it sort of tapers off on turn 3 again, because Minsk has to spend another turn, like, putting counters on the Boo again. Then on turn 4, like, you actually wondering, you've seen 10 cards. Minsk Boo sacks again. You've seen 8 cards and have dealt 8 damage. So, like, 10 cards versus 8 cards and 8 damage is, like, pretty comparable, right?
The problem is that people can attack it.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
The copium of my Minsk and Boo will live for 4
yeah.
So
cycles.
the idea of playing it right now, and I've sort of been happy with it. Obviously, like, it does just die sometimes, but it does leave a red legendary permanent behind, which is sort of nice for Sisay, right? Because it still leaves colors
I guess
behind.
that will also be nicer now that often you won't be getting Ragavan, but
Yes.
Tiny Bones.
Yes, Tiny Bones is a great printing.
Oh,
Love Tiny
nice.
Bones.
Yeah, true,
It's going
true,
right
true.
in. Yep. But yeah, like Minsk and Boo is like the idea of it is it's one of you're not looking to cast it like late in the game, right? Like you're looking to cast it on the same time scale that you're casting the One Ring, which is like I'm gonna try to turbo it out turn 1, turn 2 when it's like pretty difficult to contest it. I mean, like, can you get past a 4/4 on the ground that comes back like on turn 2 a lot of the time? Usually not. Like it takes a fast Crom
there's
hand
also
to do
Jewel
so.
Lotus Crom.
It takes a
Lots
fast
of
Crom hand
cards.
to do
There's
so.
lots of cards that are really good when you slam, like 4-drops that you slam them on turn 2. Like if that's the metric we're using.
Sure,
for,
yeah.
like,
Okay, great. So, like, would you like to tell me which of those I could play in this deck? Because the idea is that...
Talion.
So, the thing is, after having played with Talion, I sort of just don't like it as much as Minsk and Boo when I see it in opening hands. I see it in opening hands, and I'm just like, I don't really want to cast this. I don't want to spend the time, like, getting up to the mana to cast this, because I'm not sure how much I'm going to get back on it. Minsk and Boo, I'm just like, oh, if I can get this to live, and it's, like, pretty reasonable a lot of the time to get this to live, like, I'm going to get 4
Sure,
cards.
but like, which one would you rather draw on turn 5?
It actually depends. I think I actually like Minsk and Boo better on turn 5, because it can turn into removal spells, and Talion just has to spend even longer getting his cards back. I don't know, man. I'm not going to go too far into this.
I just feel like the idea that, like, you're casting... Like, there's so many things that people will have. It's really not that hard. Even if they can't kill the Minsk right away, just, like, hitting it down a little bit is not that hard. Got, like, I don't know, like a Mastermind, or, like...
dude, Gilded Drakes, man.
there's just a bunch of... A bird, a Gilded Drake.
Sure.
Like someone swings a Gilded Drake at it, you can't minus, right?
Yes.
Or you go to plus on your Boo, and then just someone flashes in an OBM, and you're just sad.
Well, the deck has a hard time with OBM anyway. I mean, it doesn't actually have... It's not a hugely difficult time. I've definitely, like, I've won from positions where I've gotten my board wiped by an OBM, because, you know, you're still, like, a Dockside Breach deck, but... Yeah, I mean, like, you're losing to OBM anyway.
I don't think that's necessarily true.
Anyway, that was just like sort of the one like sort of spice pick, and I'm still like sort of testing around with it.
Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, like I don't know, I've been a huge fan of how the deck has functioned recently. It has like a lot of like really nice like pivot points where you can sort of like choose the direction that you're going. Like you can. This was always the thing that I was doing with like playing Thrasios Tymna for a long time, right? It was like trying to get the deck to where it had a good like win con density where you can like access your wins pretty consistently, and then also like, you know, the grind game is sort of inherent to playing Thrasios Tymna, especially the toolbox versions, but like having just options to be able to win like relatively quickly on like sometimes turn 2, more commonly like just like being able to put out wins on turn 3, which is why I really like the breakfast version before I switched over to this. And Sisay just feels like sort of a better version of that strategy where you can sort of like, you get a finger in all of the pies. You can kill really early because Breach and Dockside are dumb cards that shouldn't exist. You can play the mid-range game pretty well. You have a lot of different like sort of utility pieces that also serve as stuff that you're playing in the deck anyway. So like Soul Cauldron is a weirdly powerful utility piece a lot of the time. As is like Derevi. Derevi can be like weirdly good at like tapping down people or just like gaining value by like untapping your lands and like letting you develop and then untap and hold up interaction as like a mini Seedborn Muse type thing, or just like a big dork. And then you can also just, you know, play control-ish game when you have enough cards flowing in from your value engine and that kind of stuff. And then like you're pretty good into stacks too, right? Like if you're not if they're not specifically on Curse Totem or Op Agent, and you can definitely remove an Op Agent. Curse Totem may be a bit sketchier, but you know there's still Besaju in there. You can still like find stuff to do with that. You could like work through stacks pretty effectively. I've definitely had games, and I think Morgan's been in these games, in some of the games as well, where like there's like a rule of law in play, and I'm like a breach. I'm like, yeah, like a draw a bunch of cards, breach Thoracle deck, and I'm just like, yeah, that's fine. I'm just gonna sit here and activate Sisay a bunch and just like put stuff into play, and you're eventually gonna have to deal with it, or else you're gonna die. And that's like another space where, like, I'm not gonna rag it on too much, but like those are the kinds of like board locked, like heavily stacked games where like you put a Minsc and Boo into play, and you're just like, I'm just gonna keep making a large hamster and like removing the shit that's actually threatening to me, and just leave all the lock pieces in play for a bit. And then the big powerful thing for the mid-range mirrors as well, where like you actually like have to find wins because you're getting outvalued and stuff, is that there are 2 legendary Grand Abolishers now with both Cutzel and Teferi, and you just play regular Grand Abolisher and Rager Captain. So it's like pretty easy to just force wins through by just putting one of those into play and stopping all interaction.
Yeah. No, I think Sisay is a very, very strong deck. I think it's probably the best 5-color deck.
I would like to think so right now as well. I mean, Najeela's got some stuff, but I would say I think I would prefer Sisay over Kenrith in like basically every situation right now. Like almost every meta. Maybe like the super, super slow ones, Kenrith can get better, but I think Sisay just like Kenrith has like A+ semi-Bs with Dockside with like Skirk Prospector and that kind of stuff, or like Fimage. Sisay has like an actual just like Dockside plus Sisay wins the game a lot of the time.
Yeah, just also like better toolbox.
Yep.
Comes down early, turns on SWAT and Fierce.
Turning on SWAT and Fierce off of a J-Lo on turn 1 is like super important a lot of the time.
No, deck is sick, and I'm glad that you've put in the work along with everyone else to get it to this point. Definitely. Yeah, I mean, every time you were saying minimum effective package, I was, had a massive grin on my face.
Yeah. Lidded loves the term. Huge fan of it.
Well, I think I thought I coined it.
I mean, he just really sympathizes,
I think I coined it on this podcast.
I know it's lodged in my brain, but if you did, then good on you, because great term for this. Because people,
I'm
I will say
sure.
people have been describing this kind of stuff as like no bad cards, and I have resented that term for a long time, but I particularly resent it like playing like in this kind of deck where it's like, no, there are some bad cards in here. Like Agatha's Soul Cauldron is not like an objectively powerful card on its own necessarily, and like a lot of the stuff in here is like, it could be better if you didn't have a Sisay in the command zone that sort of necessitated playing it, but it's all just like just lean enough to make all the pieces work together, and like where you still get to have space to play the actual good cards that you do want to play.
Yeah, you it's the marginal utility of each additional, bad card or embarrassing card or whatever, right?
Yeah.
First one turns on some kind of, niche ability to interact here or do this thing and unlock some aspect of your commander. Then eventually you continue to add cards, and the returns are just, worse and worse. Like, I'll put in this, and it's, some very niche silver bullet that's not going to come up all that often, or, I need this for some, like, my third redundant win con. It's like, no, get this down to a 4 or 5 card package, and you're laughing.
It's something that Sisay, particularly as a commander, is very susceptible to. Just like, oh, well, I ran into this, like, weird situation that this, like, random legend would have really helped in, and then you add it to the deck, and it's just like, well, you just, like, keep adding all these dead draws to the deck. They're, like good in specific situations, but outside of those situations, they're just, like, useless, and then they start clogging up, like, draws, and they just, like, are just sitting around not doing anything, and they're just, like, only there to add colors to Sisay, but they cost 3 mana, and, like, you don't actually ever want to cast them. You just want to be fetching them.
Yep. Okay, well, is there anything else you want to talk about Sisay before we move on?
I'm good unless you guys have, like, questions, but I think we can also move unless there's a pressing need.
Morgan?
No, I think I'm
cool. That means it's time for everyone's favorite segment, Gut Check.
Gut Check.
Gut Check.
Okay, so this is kind of originating from the fact that, like, I mean, we've been in maximum spoiler, for years, and it's been accelerating. And we started with Universes Beyond a while ago, but now we're, like, truly getting 20 different Universes Beyond spoiled, like, simultaneously. I think, we could just do a quick, gut check. Is the best Universes Beyond Lord of the Rings? I think so. Yeah, okay. Because
I think that's like an easy
my gut check was going to be,
like, good, but
well, okay. So my gut check was going to be, what is the best non Lord of the Rings Universes Beyond?
Oh yeah, I mean,
I think the Fallout stuff is going to be.
Oh, also, sorry, I am doing this with the context of I just broadly hate Universes Beyond. Not a fan.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, 40K, I'd say.
Okay, I was kind of thinking 40K too, but no, there's some interesting. Like, I guess technically is what's it called? D&D. Is that technically also Universes Beyond?
No, it's not. It's
No.
Universes Within because it is Hasbro owned property.
Yeah. Okay. But I feel like it kind of falls in a similar
non-universe. I'm looking at the wiki page right now. It's non-Universes Beyond crossovers.
Okay. Wait, what are the ones on that?
Huh?
What all is on that?
Walking Dead, Stranger Things, Arcane, Street Fighter, Fortnite, Warhammer 40K, Transformers, D&D Secret Lair drop specifically for the Honor Among Thieves movie, Lord of the Rings, Creepshow, Doctor Who, Evil Dead, Princess Bride, Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, Tomb Raider, Cluedo Clue, Fallout, Assassin's Creed, Final Fantasy, Marvel. Final Fantasy and Marvel or ETA.
Jesus Christ. Okay, I would have picked 40. Actually, do you have a are you vested in 40K at all?
Yes, I think the rest of them are absolutely terrible.
No, I mean like you care about Warhammer in general.
Oh yeah, I don't play Warhammer, but I would like to think that I'm relatively well read on the lore, and I think it's a interesting setting.
Okay, I was gonna, because I think I'll pick something else because you picked already 40K, but I thought it was kind of interesting because I generally do not give a shit about any of these franchises except Lord of the Rings.
But it's got a really cool cohesive fantasy setting though.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I think even though I'm not a fan of a lot of the Doctor Who, I think most of the stuff in 40K is pretty good. I think the Doctor Who, what they were doing with Suspend, And
Yeah.
I think that was a kind of
top-down
cool,
like interpretation of a of a universe or like a theme as game mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
Time travel is a very difficult game mechanic to thing to port into your game, and I think they definitely did a good job of like making it feel like a lot of them were manipulating time somehow, even without like just absolutely breaking the game.
So Morgan, what's your answer?
I
Fallout
stuff. I think it might honestly be better than
40K.
Like in terms of power level, at least better than either of Doctor Who or 40K.
Damn, because okay, so I think I'd mentioned this on the podcast before, of doing like my Lord of the Rings battle box, and it kind of made me think like you could kind of do a similar thing with 40K for sure, and also with the D&D stuff. But I was kind of just wanting to get your guys' opinions on these, and also the listeners as well, to see like if I was to go beyond Lord of the Rings, what would be the most kind of like worthwhile to dip into. I think I'd lean 40K, but I'm interested in what the listeners have to say as well. I also want to include I
think for that I'd definitely say Fallout, because I feel like 40K didn't really have like internal themes that I felt were like particularly like each deck had the things that it was
Necron
doing,
theme was like
but there wasn't a lot of stuff that overlapped between the decks. And I feel like for a self-contained gameplay experience, having mechanics that like directly interact with each other is
okay.
Like
I actually haven't taken a look too closely at the Fallout set, so I'll give that one a look. Okay, well, that about wraps it up for this episode. If you guys like to reach out to us with any questions, comments, or concerns, you can contact us on Twitter at Into the North Pod, via our email, intonorthpodcast@gmail.com, or on our Discord server, the invite link for which can be found in the description for this episode. An extra special thanks to all of our patrons who help cover the expenses for our show and allow us to work towards improving the quality of the podcast. If you too would like to become a patron, we are at patreon.com/northpodcast. Thank you, as always, to the Bandbox Cadre for our lovely podcast music, and to Nate Slover for our equally lovely podcast logo. Next episode will be out in 2 weeks. Until then, see ya.